Yo, what's up guys? We are back with some Etheria restart news. There's going to be another CBT and the launch is coming sooner and sooner. Once again, they invited me to play in a tournament, which I will be showcasing in this video. However, few dates to mention. On the 9th of May, there's going to be another CBT. So if you do want to test out this game, if you do want to give feedback to the developers, this is your time. Also, last time around, I had a blast playing the CBT, because most of the time these games you don't really know what to do with the resource. What should you keep, what should you not keep? In a CBT you can just toy around. It's like just use everything and then just have a chill gameplay. And you can also try around like, hey, which unit would I like to pull, because you have a free banner on selecting a unit which you will guarantee get the moment the game is launched. And that's just for every gameplay, for every account you will have that free banner. But then what is the best choice? What is the unit you like most? Once again, link is in the description down below if you want to register for this, so highly recommend to check that out. Also on the 25th, there's going to be a stream for a launch pre-review, and there's just going to be showing more things for Etheria Reset. However, this video is going to be about the tournament that I played. Just to explain a little bit about this tournament, we have 8 players. First, we will be playing a Swiss stage format. So therefore, someone is going to be playing against someone that has the same amount of wins. Let's say I get a victory. I will be playing against someone else that also has a 1-0 victory. Then if I get a 2-0, I will be playing against someone else that also has a 2-0 victory. And that goes down for like a 0-2 and all of those kind of things as well. We have 8 players. Shambi is also in there. That's definitely a familiar name for you guys most of the time. There is also a prize pool. Number 1 takes $500 US. Number 2, 250. And then number 3, $100 US. So, hey, there's something to play for, and I want to be winning those 500. Last time around, I made it to the top 4 out of 16 players. Was able to pick up a little bit of a prize pool over there. Well, let's see if we can do that again. So now to talk about tournament. These matches were already played. I have it a little bit speed up for the first few rounds. I'm currently 1-0 up against this opponent. The previous fight was a bit more of a stall fight with a lot of back and forth on revivers and healers, so it's a little bit less interesting. So I'm going to go into a fight which has a little bit more action, straight going to the point. Let me explain some of the units, because you're probably not familiar with all of the units. Top left, we have Linglo, main healer in the game. That's the only thing you have to know. Then besides that, we have the... Oh, he was actually going back and forth between a few units. One he locked in is Messiah. It's an overall damage dealer. Then the slot 3, he has a damage dealer based on defense. Also, the slot 3 is protected, so I cannot ban that one, but I can ban any of the other units. So in this case, I do go for the Revive, because I do know he likes to play for the Reviver as well. Then on my side, my first pick was Hellkit, my fastest unit, which provides a immunity and a shield. But it's the interesting thing about immunity. The immunity is only there as long as the shield is there. The moment you break the shield, you lose the immunity. And what is immunity in this game? Well, you cannot be debuffed, which is incredibly strong. It's a great way of protection. Then next to that, we have Veronica, which is, for me, I think my MVP throughout this whole tournament. In the last tournament that I played, it was super strong. What does she do? She has a skill 3 that's you single target a unit, you strip all of their debuffs, you steal those, and then you actually give them to the whole team, which is incredibly strong. Then besides that, the units that I have is I added in the best buff blocker in game, and also has a heal block, which is really strong. And then next to that, I also have a unit that has all kinds of like turn cycling kind of style of play. Then on his side, the units that I did not mention yet is on the right, and that is just a plain damage dealer as far as my understanding goes for that unit. It's a unit I know a little bit less. But in this case, there was a little bit too much immunity for me to go for the skills right away. So let me just go for like a ×1, just to give a little bit more understanding. So with this right now, if I go for skill 3, I can lower cooldowns. But then again, skill 2, I can also buff some of the units and make them move faster. And the moment I make them move faster, it's really nice. Also on his side, he doesn't have any form of buff removal. And because he doesn't have any buff removal, I kind of have like a free reign to land the debuffs on him. And I can still get my protection in with my Hellkit. Also, you do see these flying monsters next to your units, which is in this case a add-on, or let's say an artifact for most games, to add to your character that makes something very different. And some of those are incredibly strong. For example, this one gives extra healing to a healer, but you could also place that on any other unit. The one that we had on the next one, wait, we first have Messiah coming in with some big damage. Nope, protected by the shield, so didn't do anything. You saw the Supernova, which is that thing over here, which therefore does also give extra healing. The one that we have for him, which you don't really see right now, if he gets any debuffs, he cleanses those debuffs before a turn. So it's a unit that's very hard to stun. Sounds busted? Yeah, it's incredibly strong. But then again, you do have to get those right shells, as they called in this game, with the right fitting team and with the right fitting unit. So it's not as easy to get, but they're definitely super strong. Then we also have this little dragon over here, which is also incredibly strong and really one of those that I want to be aiming for to get the moment that the game is released. Any skill that you use on your first and second turn, I think it's first and second, you don't use the cooldown of it. You can use it right again. So I did just use the shields earlier from Hellkit, and I still have that shield skill right now. So I once again have full immunity, full shields on the whole team, which is just incredibly strong. And while during that time, I have been using the Heinrich, which has been debuffing their whole team. The strongest healer on this side is actually a healer that has very strong healing over time. But since I have the heal block, and I do have the buff block, they just don't do that much. So this team is, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. He's trying to make work of my units. I still have a revive in here, which he first has to take down if he wants to get anywhere. Rahul, which is the damage dealer by defense, as I mentioned. Also very strong unit, very strong in the late game. But as you can see, that healing right now, it's trying to do a little bit, but it's not doing all too much. And I just have more chance for landing those buff blocks. My reviver is just actually kind of like healing a little bit back and forth. But he had a very bad position because he didn't have any proper removal of buffs. And because he didn't have any proper removal of buffs, I didn't have that much damage. But I just had a lot more out-sustaining and a lot more chances of denying his sustain because of this skill landing the buff block, the other skill landing the heal block, and just doing chip damage altogether from there. So that's one of those ways that strategizing and also how do you do the draft adds in a lot of factors of how can you play the best. And that's the thing that I also do like a lot about this game. And that's also the reason I will definitely be playing this game the moment it is going to be released. Very good odds that I will use a second channel for making content on this game, like just as like a longer time. It's not set in stone just yet, but there's definitely very good odds for that. So as you can see, whittling down the enemy team, just trying to get everything in, still having all of my cooldowns because of the Lily, which is the unit here at the bottom that's standing here on the right, which is a cooldown lowering unit, which just helps out so much for having long cooldowns, making a lot shorter, once again, buffing other units, making them faster, giving them extra kit damage, giving them skill cooldown decreases. And they just worked out so well. In the end, he couldn't really do any damage to me. Any little bit of chip damage he was able to do, I still healed off. And this was a really clean victory that way. And it's also one of those things, like, if you win this clean, it looks super easy. It's like, couldn't everyone have done this? Well, you need to do the right drafting to get anywhere. So in the end, this was a 2-0 in my first Swiss stage. Then my next opponent was Cat, and in this case had a very strong team of more working on the SRs, which are also known as 4 stars in other games. And I was mainly focusing on 5 stars, but his team was very strong. It was a lot of cooldown decreases, attack bar gains, slow on my side, and it was very hard to kill anything. And with that, they actually managed to kill a bunch of my units, because in the end, I had a strong healer, but he did notice some of my weaknesses in my team, that my heal kit was kind of on the squishy side. So if we fast forward that a little bit, he still has the reviver sitting in there, and I only have my defense type damage dealer, and I have my Linglo, which is my main tank, or, well, it's not necessarily a main tank, but a main healer in there. So it's definitely a super close match. However, the SR units mostly have worse base stats, and Rahul, the defense-based damage dealer, starts to rock in more damage the moment he has more stacks. And if the fight is super long, he has the maximum amount of stacks. So as you can see, he was just doing like half HP damage, but she still had that reviver up, which was really annoying, because the unit on the left over here is also something that would strip. So even if I provide the immunity, he can strip, he can also slow. I do have my skill 3 up right now, which is, it's just like one hitting right now. But that skill 3 is definitely long in the cooldown, and it's definitely one of those fights like, oh, am I actually gonna get anywhere? Because he's going really back and forth. This unit gives attack bar gain, cooldown reductions. I'm pretty sure this one also has cooldown reductions, and there's just a lot of cooldown reductions for him. And he wants to go back and forth trying to get heals in while trying to make the kills. So I noticed I couldn't really kill the healer because it just was it was way too tanky. But the other units was easier to tank, and then he gave up because he noticed like, okay, getting that revive back would have taken too long. So even on the 2v4 match, I was still able to get a win, but it was definitely a difficult one. Next match, however, did not manage to win. I had a bit of a wrong pick with the unit that you see here on the bottom right, and she just didn't do enough for me, didn't really work out. So we're at a 1-1 right now. Then for my final match, I actually locked in my unit that I like the most by a really long shot from the first CBT that I played, which was, I think, the third CBT, and we're now going into the fourth, which is the final one, which is Ho-Yan. She's sitting over here. Her skill set is insane, but I'll talk you through it the moment we actually see it in play. Okay, so once again, we have my Hell Kit starting off. We put it back to the normal speed. He takes a turn right now on the debuffer, but the debuffer cannot do anything because I once again have that immunity. Very well timed. Love that Hell Kit on this fast set. So I can go for the debuffs on his side, so the buff block and everything. But the big thing comes right after this. So he can take a turn right now. He can increase cool times, or he can increase the, what's it called? Not the cool times, but he can increase the speed of things. But he needs to land that by a buff. So in this case, we can cooldown increase. We can also give extra damage towards another unit. So with the buff, we would give extra damage. But in this case, I just buffed the Ho-Yan. And then we have the Ho-Yan skill set. Third skill, drains half HP of yourself, goes to hit the enemy, ignore defense for the amount of HP that you lost. If you kill something, one of your allies is dead, that unit will instantly be revived for the amount of damage you did. And every time that you kill something, you also gain extra damage as well. So Ho-Yan is a really strong unit. However, there's one downside. She's a little bit easy to kill, and you need a lot of setup to make her work. But if she works, she's just insane. She's just instantly deleting a unit. She also has the moment that she gets killed the first time, she instantly goes for that skill 3. Like, she survives the death hit, and then she instantly goes for skill 3. However, if she's stunned during that hit, you can't actually do that. But since I once again have that shell that has the extra turn, I still have that third skill. And then I can cooldown reduce on Ho-Yan, that third skill once again. And then I can go for another Death Breach on that Ho-Yan and just take out that second unit right away. You do really need your setup for this. You do really need a good, like a really insane set. Otherwise, you're not one-shotting. But that was super clutch on that Ho-Yan, and I absolutely love that unit. Then the final stage for me on the Swiss stage, which was against this opponent right here. I started off pretty strong with almost killing him. However, he did have that very strong reviver. And with that strong reviver, he actually has 2 revivers. And getting rid of those double revivers was just, it showed too much difficulties. At this point, you would feel like, hey, you probably have this match in the bag, right? Nope, those revivers just showed too much trouble for me. He also had the unit that went for the slows. If I had the cooldown on that skill 2 right now, I probably could have taken him out. But he started killing my units, and then it's just like a little bit too much. Did have the silence over here as well. If I had skills here, maybe I could have done something, but he went for a counter, and he's just slowly whittling down my units. So therefore, we're going to be starting off with a 0-1 lose. As you can see, it ended up with all of his units being back to full HP. Sanya was just super strong. So I noticed that and was like, I'm going to be banning that one. I don't like playing against that one anymore. So like, nope. She pretty much full healed the whole team, revived a bunch of times. I'm like, I ain't going to be playing that stuff anymore. So then my next match, I bring back the Ho-Yan. However, this was also a super close match. And let me show you mainly the ending. Back and forth, it was the same thing as before, trying to deny buffs, trying to give me buffs. However, I don't have any form of healing, and I also don't have any form of healing to steal from in this case. But once again, Ho-Yan takes a turn and takes out his damage dealer. Just, it works. I thought this was a different match, but maybe it's the match after. So in this case, I killed his main damage dealer. I had the chance for more protection on my whole team the whole time. He couldn't really do anything, and from here, he pretty much guaranteed loss because he didn't have any form of buff removal. That match actually comes later. It's not from the ones of the Swiss stage. But we'll see. We see some real Ho-Yan play later on, though. So first of all, we have this match, and I actually kind of had like a bad draft. Didn't really like it too much. He just had the chance of way too much revival. I had the Messiah in here, but I actually should have had Ho-Yan in here again. Messiah is more of an AoE damage dealer, but into revivers, it's a little bit hard to get anything killed that way. And he just had a lot of cooldown reduction all the time. So in the end, he was able to whittle down my team, and we actually ended up this one on a lose. That did mean that for the Swiss stage, I got 5 points and I lost 1. So I ended up actually on the 2nd position in the Swiss stage. And therefore, this is how the bracket ended up being like. We had God Doggo being the victor of a 3-0 all the way. And then there were a whole bunch of people on 2-on-1. However, as this Switch stage worked, is that the players that got 2-0 victories earlier do actually count more towards like more points. And therefore, I was the number 2 spot. And therefore, I had to play the final match once again against God Doggo, which was the opponent that just beat me earlier. Chumby also made it to the top 4, and he has to be playing for a 3rd place position, which still has a prize money to it. So now we are playing the finals. So that's either going to be winning $500 or losing $250 for this tournament. Once again, against the same opponent that beat me earlier. So in this case, I do go for the Sanya ban once again, because the Sanya, I did notice that that was one of his super strong units, and I just simply did not want to fight against it. He also had the Tiamat ban, which is also one of those units. If you leave it on the field for too long, absolutely devastating, and some of those fights simply get very lengthy and very far. And then also the unit that you see over here, which is Doki Doki, which is the main speed booster of this game. Once again, incredibly strong unit. He definitely still liked to go for all of his revivers, play around with his revivers. So definitely was taking my time to get the units in. But once again, I was playing a lot again around the Hellkit and the Veronica, because those were just my 2 core units that worked out very well for me. So in this case, he does have the buff blocker sitting over there. I lock in once again the Hoyan in the 3rd slot. Actually, where Hoyan did not really work that well for me in the previous tournament that I played, it did have a lot more potential in the current tournament. I also did give it a little bit better gear of just one-shotting things, because the main important thing is she has to one-shot. If you don't one-shot, it's going to be really difficult. I also add in the Lily. He on his side adds in the Viper, which is that SR unit, which has good strips, has the counters, and then with the counts on the strips. And then his final unit is going to be a unit that actually has a lot of shields, but also reflect based on the shield damage. And also has a sort of Oblivion, which takes away passive. So definitely an interesting unit, but I felt it not that strong most of the time. So let's see, he doesn't have too much damage, except for maybe the Heinrich, depending on how it is built. If it's not built super fast, then it could be built on a little bit higher damage. And you can see it move pretty late over here. So it's probably more on the damage. He does also have a lot of units on his buffs. Which is like the immunity buff on the start, which is one of the modules that you can give, so one of the equipments that you can give. But yeah, you can immediately see that there's a lot of back and forth on either side's immunity, and there's not all too much happening back and forth until someone kind of runs out of immunity. So let me fast forward a little bit. I thought for a moment that Hoyan also had a anti-revive, so I killed the unit. I was like, oh, I'm happy, I killed something, I'm good right now, it's going to be fine. I did have a little bit of buff block on me, but I killed his main damage dealer, so I am going to be fine. However, Hoyan, I read that wrong, doesn't have an anti-revive. No. There is one anti-revive unit in the game, but it's not that strong. Also, I was 1 turn away from actually stealing the buff that revives a unit. So you can see the stacks over here, that 2 stacks. That means there's another 2 revive potentials on this unit. Also, he was able to revive with a lot of HP. So I was just able to, or try to take it out. It is still a little bit on the tanky side, so couldn't take it out right there. And he was, in the meantime, able to heal up a decent amount of HP again, because he does have that main healer right there. And he was also getting on the point of taking out my unit, so it was getting like more and more dangerous in this whole fight. And this one actually ended up being very interesting, so let's play it out from here. So once again, I was like, oh, I kind of have to kill the unit on the left, because that one is just constantly gonna get revived, because every time it takes a turn, there's just that passive in there. I kill something, it's revived. I was like, get these revivers off the field, man. I don't like them. I kill something, it's revived again. I'm like, get these units off the field. Is that kind of broken? Maybe a little bit, but if you kill the reviver first, it's not that bad. I was looking like, where the hell is that buff at? Okay, it's still at 1 more stack right there. But then he started killing my units. I'm like, this is gonna be bad. We're going to be losing another one against this guy. Starting off on the back foot. This is actually going to be a full best of 5, so you have to win 3 matches. Once again, I don't have the cooldowns. So I'm like, oh, if I had the cooldowns over here, I could have done something. Reflect damage actually kills me. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna send it on the reviver. Killed it. And okay, we gotta replay that a little bit slower on the normal speed. What happened there? So I did damage to him, but since there is shield, she does reflect shield damage, so I kill my own unit. In this case, I am having the wrong element. I have a green against the red element, which is the wrong element. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to send it on the reviver, and we just take it as is, and we'll just see how it works. However, since there is too much damage, I also take enough damage myself that I die. So normally she would actually revive a unit on the side, but apparently since I die, that part didn't happen. But the moment she dies the first time, she immediately goes for another third skill at random. So he goes again for that third skill on something else that also has a shield, but also takes out the main reviver. I'm like, oh, or the main healer. I'm like, okay. So now we have the Veronica. Incredibly strong skill 2. Skill 3, buff steal, but it's not going to be that strong right now against his 2 units. So this was definitely a little bit of back and forth. There was still some healing overtime on the unit on the left. So I'm like, give me that healing overtime. I'll take all of your buffs. I'll take everything. So, yep, just trying to whittle it down. Thing is, where my unit was a lot faster than his unit. So I actually lapped him for another skill 2. And now we actually had a 1 against 1. So that Hoyan just worked out so well. It's kind of strange. She should have been reviving something on the side, but maybe because she instantly died herself, she couldn't get that to work. And from this point on, I was just stealing the shield every time. The skill 2 just does an insane amount of damage of this Veronica. So every time I was just able to get the skills in. And this was actually a super close match, but therefore also a super funny match of how it worked in the end. And that just shows that there's a lot of strategy also at the late moment of this match of like getting your skills in, timing the things right, trying to get something to work, and we had a 1-0 victory right there. Next matchup, he actually took the Hoyan in this case. He does have the Messiah, so he has 2 main damage dealers right now. I actually, in his case, took out the one that is the setup for his units. He still has the Reviver, but I was like, I think I can actually get rid of it because he doesn't really have a form of proper immunity removal. He did also remove my Hell Kit, so I don't have the property or the proper immunity as well. But I denied the buffs, and because I denied the buffs, the Revive is a buff on that side on the unit on the top left. So sure, he did do a lot of damage, but he made one decent mistake, which is, wait, did he go for it right there? Let's see. Yep. He boosted up the Messiah. So this unit actually boosted up the Messiah. But Messiah on his third skill, which didn't do a lot of damage, goes invisibility for himself. And therefore you cannot be hit. But the Veronica moved right after. So therefore your invisibility becomes my invisibility. Whereas he only had invisibility on one target, I now have AoE invisibility. So he started trying to use skills, but those skills had no meaning. Because he didn't notice that the invisibility that normally is on the Messiah is now on my whole team. He couldn't do anything, which is just an insane mechanic right there. And that's also where I was a little bit lucky that my enemy didn't fully understand how that worked out. And therefore, he also was still using this third skill right now, which you normally should have saved because now you're hitting on invisibility. If you hit it on invisibility, you do 0 damage. So that was a really nice play right there. And then we have some hard hit from that roll coming in. How much damage are we looking at? We are looking at some real good damage. Killed the Hoyan. Hoyan instantly goes for skill, but I still have invisibility. So Hoyan's skill is double wasted right there. So that was just a super nice turnaround where I actually was maybe a little bit on the back foot, but since he did not fully understand his units and my potential of stealing his invisibility just made it where I was able to win that whole match. And those cool strategies is definitely something that I do really like in this game. If you make the smart plays, you can definitely get away with like being on the back foot, like, oh, he takes the first turn, oh, he takes like half HP on all of my units, but I still able to get a win. Sure, he was able to get some revives in right here. He was still able to do some damage. Nearly took out one unit, but all of his units were that low on HP that he couldn't really make it work from this position on. Also, just the counter of Viper. I would say Viper for the SR units, probably one of the strongest. Really, really strong unit right there. But from here was actually a nice cleanup. He couldn't do all too much because sure, he has a Reviver, but he had to revive too many units. Also, the shell on the side of the row, you saw a massive shield. Wait, let me go a little bit back. After I do a skill on the row takes a turn. If you take a turn right now, look at that massive shield. He gets a shield based on his own defense, and he's a defense scaling unit. So there's just a lot of defense on it. And then he goes for the lowest HP target for a shield. Shield. A lot of shield. So therefore, we have a 2-0 victory right now. So then the final match. I actually made a big mistake of not banning Tiamat. Tiamat is, in my opinion, pretty much the most banned. It's the unit that you see here on the top left. Tiamat is one of those units. It's a healer, it's a shielder, it's a taunter. But the moment that she gets too many stacks, she goes in some kind of like cyclone transform, dragon-ish form, and she only has one skill: AoE damage whole team, enemy side. But that is so much damage, you can probably survive 2 AoEs and you're dead. And she's gonna have a lot of AoEs every turn that she has that full AoE skill. So if you have a long drawn-out fight, she's on the field, you probably lose. That's just the main thing. But the thing is, I thought I had first pick, but I didn't have first pick. And the thing is, if you do have first pick, you can leave her open, because then you just take her as a first pick. If the enemy is first pick, you should be banning it. I made a mistake. I banned this Reviver and I banned another unit. I think I banned both Revivers here, or I'm not sure. No, wait, I banned the Doki Doki, and I banned the Reviver, and he banned my Hell Kit, because he did notice that my Hell Kit, my immunity guy, was his main annoyance as well. So I was like, okay, with this draft, I have to be super careful with the fact that most likely I will have to be banning out the Tiamat. Because if the Tiamat gets the stacks, we're not going to be looking at a fun game. That's just the main thing. So I was thinking like, okay, could I go for a Hoyan? Is that dangerous? I do already have the Veronica, I have the main healer, and I have the buff blocker over here. It's definitely a strong comp. And in the end, I also once again went for the Hoyan and then the Rahul, which was the main defense damage scaling unit as well. In this case, I was really careful. It's like, can I actually get rid of the Tiamat and still win this match? He will probably outspeed me on his Lily, which is one of the fastest base speed units, and then can start boosting up other units. I didn't have that much form. Well, I do have the protection with the Ling Low. I can start getting steals in as well from the Veronica. But the main damage has to be coming from that Rahul once again, which we did see in an earlier match where it does do a lot of damage in the late game. So this was definitely a little bit of a longer fight as well. So let me actually speed this up a little bit, because his side pretty much has no damage whatsoever. He also has no healing whatsoever. He does have a revive though, but therefore the draft is not that strong. He kind of needed a healer in this draft to actually make it really strong, because at some point I definitely noticed like, hey, I'm denying his buffs. I am getting my heals in. My Rahul's just stacking more and more damage. And he doesn't really have too much damage, because the unit on the top left is an okay damage dealer, but it's not the craziest. And if it's good on damage, then it's just going to be too squishy. Unit on the top right is more of a CC damage unit. It is HP scaling, so therefore you have that going for you. So there's a good amount of, well, tankiness on that. But the big issue is, I can just be taking out that Viper. Sure, he has that revive multiple times, but every time it is reviving, at least it's not taking turns. At least it's not countering. And from this point on, I was already like, I'm way more sound on the draft. I still have that healer going in. I have the I have so many anti-things like for the stuns. And this is also where you see the Heinrich is being stunned right now. This is the animation for stuns. But I do have this shell on him that he actually cleanses the stun the moment he takes a turn. I have that shell as well on the Ling Lo, on my main healer. And actually for the stats that shell gives in like the team-up stats, or like the how to say, the extra stats from having like a combined set, they don't really fit with it. But in this case, you saw the cleansing going in over there. I took that turn right at that moment, and he was like, wait, why is that actually getting a cleanse in? But that's also one of those things, it just fit for him to get that in at the right moment. And then you can see the biotin. The moment I take the biotin out, which is that main reviver, match is over. So we're actually looking at a 3-0 victory right here. So while I couldn't make it all the way to the end of the tournament last time, I lost in the semifinals. I did actually lose against the player that won it all in the end. I was able to make it all the way to the end right now, and definitely with these, with the reviver being gone, him not having any form of healing, this match is already over. I still have the main healer on the game. That one is probably not going to be taken out. Plus, Veronica's skill 2 damage is just so much damage. So in the end, I did make it for this tournament. I got the highest position, therefore also won $500 US, which is definitely really nice. And it's also just a motivator for me once again to start playing this game when it's released, man. I really can't wait. It's going to be a little bit longer. They're still having the CBT first. So first the CBT, I definitely might give it a little bit more of a try of seeing like, okay, what is the route of fast progression? Because I haven't done that all too much myself yet. Because every time you just get like a stacked out account that has like all of the equipments, and you just have to start upping those equipments and then trying to get like the best combination of sets. So I looked a lot at the end game units, but not that much at early game units yet. And I do think I will be using that CBT for it. However, guys, do hope you enjoyed this video as well. Do hope you are hyped for this game. I think it is a really nice showcase of what we showed here just now of PvP. There's also a good amount of PvE in there. It's a really good mixture of both, I think. So definitely a game I will be playing, and I hope you're playing as well. If you do want to join me in playing, link in the description is there for the pre-registration and the dates that I mentioned earlier in the video as well. And those dates will of course be mentioned in the description down below as well. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.